Hello, welcome to the Math Success Workshop Part 4. This part is all about doing your math homework. Right? So if you haven't seen the other videos, in this series yet, the first one was all about things to do during class. The second one was all about how to take notes in class. The third one was about how to use your math textbook. This one's going to be all about how to do your math homework. And then there'll be some other ones after this one as well, where we talk about studying and getting help and some good and bad habits. All right, so first off, to start this one off, question to you about your homework. When and where do you do your math homework? Right? And then, after you answer that question, think about, is there maybe a better time or a better place to do your homework? So if your answer to when and where do you do your homework was one of the following things, then the answer to that second question is yes. All right? So if you do your math homework in another class, well, there's a better time and a better place than that. Do you do your math homework late at night when you're sleepy and falling asleep and can't keep your head off your desk? Do you do it the night before it's due? Do you do it the morning that it's due? Do you do it somewhere where there's lots of distractions around? If your answer to any of those questions was yes, then probably we can find a better time and a better place for you to do your homework that might make it more effective as far as helping you learn and also help you get better grades on your homework, right? There's a couple reasons to do your math homework, right? One is, like I mentioned in one of the previous videos, you learn math by actually doing math problems, right? And that's what the homework is designed for. That's why teachers give you homework. It's not to torture you or to make you do extra stuff. It's so that you have an opportunity to practice these things yourself and get good at it, right? Just like anything else, like if you play a sport or you play like a musical instrument, if you want to get good at it, you need to practice it, right? Nobody just picks up a trumpet and can play. I can't think of a famous trumpet song to mention here. I guess I picked the wrong instrument, but I think you get the idea, right? People don't just walk onto a basketball court and all of a sudden they're like an NBA all-star. Like, you need to practice in order to get good at those things, right? Same thing with math. In order to do math well, you need to practice doing math by doing your homework, right? So that's the main reason why you should be doing your math homework. The other reason why is, well, the math homework helps prepare you for quizzes and tests. Generally, the problems you see on homework assignments are usually pretty similar to problems you see on quizzes and tests. So if you're able to do the homework, you should be able to do well on those other things also, right? And doing homework also helps you. It's almost like a self-diagnosis thing, right? When you do the homework problems, if you have trouble with it, well, that's a signal to you that you need more help with this particular topic. All right, if you do a homework assignment and it's easy for you and you breeze right through it and you get everything right, well, that's a signal to you that you know this material pretty well, and maybe you don't have to spend that much more time working on it. All right, so a few different purposes for doing homework. All right, so some tips on when and where to do homework. A real great idea, which is really hard. You have to be really disciplined to do this, but a really good idea is to do the homework the same day that it was covered in class. Right, so you have class on a Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night, do the homework that corresponds to that day's class, right? A couple reasons for doing that. One, it's still fresh in your mind, right? You just took that class today. You just heard the teacher give those explanations today. It's still there in your mind somewhere. It hasn't, seeped away yet. So you have a better chance of doing well on the homework if you do it while all that material is still fresh in your mind, right? It also reinforces the information you learned in class, right? And this is going to help you remember it better, right? So you hear the teacher explain the stuff today. You see the teacher do the example problems today. You go back this afternoon or tonight and you do that stuff yourself. That's just reinforcing those things that you learned in class, and that, again, it helps it stay in your memory better, right? If you learn something and then reinforce it, and that's why if you watched a previous video that I did about taking notes, after class, you should be reviewing your notes. That also reinforces the information. It helps you remember it more. If you then also do the homework that same day, that reinforces it a second time, and now you're much more likely to remember the things that happened in class that day than if you wait a couple days before you try to work on the homework. All right. Also, a good idea for why to do the homework the same day it was covered in class, if you can't figure it out or if you have a lot of trouble with it, it leaves you time to get help with it. Right? If you wait, if let's say you have class on, Tuesday and Thursday, let's say. Right? So let's say you had a class on Thursday, and you had class on Thursday, you have a homework assignment due next Tuesday, and you don't do the homework on Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You wait until Monday night, and now you sit down to do the homework that's due on Tuesday. Well, a couple problems. Monday night, it's now been, what, like 4 days since you learned that stuff in class? You've probably forgotten some of the things that happened in class if you haven't thought about it in 4 days, right? So you've probably lost some of that information. It's not as fresh in your mind anymore. And now Tuesday night or Monday night, you're having trouble, you can't figure it out, and it's due in the morning, and it's kind of too late to ask anybody to help you. You could email your teacher, but probably your teacher's not going to email you if it's late at night. It's going to be hard to find somebody else to help you. If you do it earlier rather than later, then if you do have trouble, you have time to get help from somebody, right? If you do the homework on Thursday and it's not due till Tuesday, if you have a question about something, you can email your professor, and your professor or your teacher will have plenty of time to get back to you before the homework's actually due, right? So a real smart idea to try to do the homework the same day it was covered in class, right, for all those reasons we just talked about. Where to do your homework? Try to find a quiet place with no distractions. If you're in, doing it somewhere where there's people running around making noise, or your roommates, watching TV or playing video games while you're trying to concentrate on your math homework, you're going to get distracted unless you have a really strongly focused mind, which most people don't, I found. Try to find somewhere quiet without distractions. The library is a great place to do homework, usually very quiet there. A study hall, if you have access to a study hall. A math lab, a lab, maybe a place where there's tutors available that can help you out. All those places would be a good place to just have somewhere quiet where you can concentrate and work on your stuff. Work with classmates, help each other out. Always a good idea to collaborate with other people. If you can, because the people in your class are probably having some of the same troubles you're having learning the material. But maybe somebody in that group that you're working with gets it pretty well. So that person may be able to help out the other people in the group. So always a good idea to work with classmates, as long as you're collaboratively working together and not just having one person do all the work and then everybody else copying it down. That doesn't really help, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But working with classmates is a good idea. Also, try to set aside some time. It says here at least an hour. That really depends on how often you have class and how much work you have to do. But you should set aside some time each day, or 2 or 3 times a week, whatever it is, to do your math homework. So it'd be like if I have classes, let's say on Tuesday and Thursday again. All right, so for Tuesday's class, I'm going to do my homework on Tuesday night between 9 and 10. That's my hour for doing math every Tuesday. And then same thing on Thursday night. I'm going to do my math homework between 9 and 10 every Thursday night. And then you have to have the patience and the attention span to stick to that schedule, and then also to keep working throughout that hour, and not work for like 20 minutes and say, well, that was 20 minutes, that's pretty good. Let me see what's on TV now, right? So you have to have a little bit of discipline as well. Helps when you are trying to stick to a homework schedule that you make for yourself. All right, so those are some tips about when and where you can do your homework. Again, the biggest things is finding a quiet place to do it, and then trying to do it sooner rather than later after class. Right? The sooner you can do it after class, the better off you're going to be in almost all cases doing math problems, doing math homework. All right, so those are some good tips for when and where to do homework. How do you do your homework? All right, so do you do your homework like you sit down with your math homework, you look at it for a couple minutes, you scratch your head, you get really confused, and then you give up? That's not great. Do you just copy off of somebody else? You say, well, that homework was hard. Can I just see yours so I can write down all the answers? If you do that, you're going to get a fine grade on the homework, but when you sit down to do a quiz and a test and you haven't done the work yourself, how do you think you're going to do on the quiz and the test? Which generally counts for more points than what a homework assignment counts for. So not a real good idea to just copy off other people. That's not helping you actually learn the material, right? Do you pay somebody else to do the work for you? That's nice if you have the money to do that. But it's not so nice as far as, like I just said, learning the material. If you're not actually doing the work yourself, you're not actually going to learn the material. And when you sit down for a quiz and a test, you're probably going to have a tough time with it. Right? So what strategies could aid you in doing your homework? Right? What could help you do your homework better and make it, again, an effective tool that you can use to learn the material in the class? Because that's what homework is supposed to be, a tool to help you learn. Right? So here's some tips for actually doing your homework. Right? First, you have to put effort into attempting each problem and persevere. Right? Don't just give up too easily. Right? Learning things is a struggle sometimes, especially math, especially like college level, higher level math. It can be difficult. Right? And even like your teachers who are really good at math, somewhere along the way, I can almost guarantee you, almost every single one of them had something that they struggled to understand. Right? I know I did. I teach math now. I tutor math now. But when I was learning math, in high school and college, there were times where I was really frustrated and there were things I just didn't get right away. Right? It happens to everybody. Almost everybody. There's some super geniuses that maybe that doesn't apply to. But for most of us, we have trouble. It's hard to learn. Right? It's something I use with my students a lot. Think about when you first learned to walk. Right? You probably don't remember learning to walk, but you didn't just one day stand up and start running around, right? It doesn't really work that way. You had to struggle to learn how to do that, right? You had to stand up and then fall down, and then stand up again and try to take a step and wobble a little bit and fall down, and then stand up again and take 2 or 3 steps and then lose your balance and fall down, right? But you had to keep getting up and keep trying again in order to actually learn how to walk. Mathematics is similar, right? The first time you try something, you might mess it up. You might make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of what homework is for, is to make those mistakes, to learn from those mistakes. That's the key thing, is learning from those mistakes, so that when you come to a quiz or a test, you've already made the mistakes, you've learned how to correct them, and now you can do it correctly, right? You can do it properly, right? So, the first part of that is putting the effort into doing the problems and not just giving up when it looks like it's difficult, right? You got to try to work out each problem, right? Refer to your notes and examples from class. Like I said when we talked about the note-taking thing, the examples your teacher does in class usually are similar to some of the homework problems. So if you're stuck on a homework problem, look back in your notes, go through the examples. If you find an example that's similar, kind of follow that same step-by-step process to help guide you through the homework problem. You can also review examples from the textbook for the same reason. Right? If you can't find a similar example in your notes, maybe your textbook has a similar example. Or if you can't find one in the textbook, you might be able to look for a similar problem on YouTube or on Khan Academy or some other online resource. Right? But try to find almost like a blueprint of what to do. It's this specific type of problem. This is the blueprint for how I solve this problem. I have to do the same thing, but just with these different numbers that's in the problem that I'm working on. Right? So using other example problems as guides is a real good thing to help you get through difficult homework problems. Feel free to take short breaks. Don't try to sit down for 2 hours straight and just do math homework for a full 2 hours. You're going to fry your brain. You're going to get really frustrated probably. And after a time, it starts to become counterproductive. Right? It stops helping and starts hurting more than it helps. Right? So if you feel yourself starting to get frustrated, or you feel like it's been too long and your brain is starting to fizzle out, get up and walk around, take a short break, go get a drink of water or something, and then come back to it a little bit later and continue on. Just make sure you come back from that short break. Don't take a short break that lasts the entire night. Right? That's not good. Don't copy another student's work without understanding what they're doing. Again, just writing down steps and the answer to the problem without really understanding what's happening there, that's not helping you learn how to do the material. That's going to get you a good grade on the homework assignment, but you're probably going to fail the quiz or the test that has a similar question on there. Right? So don't just copy down somebody else's work without understanding how to actually solve the problem. All right? Don't rely on online tools to solve the problems for you. There are some websites out there now where you can type in an algebra problem or a calculus problem, and it'll show you all the steps and show you the answer. Right? It basically does all the work for you and shows you what the answer is. Right? Those are good if you are using them to help you learn how to do the problems. Right? If you're looking at that and saying, okay, first I do this step. Why do I do that step? Oh, it's because of this. Oh, and then that leads to this next step. And now I'm understanding how to actually work through this problem. Right? If you're doing that and then just copying down all the steps and writing the answer just so you can get the homework done, again, that's not helping you actually learn how to do the problems yourself. And I've said it, I don't know how many times already in this math workshop we're doing here. But doing the problems yourself is how you learn how to do math. Right? So you can use those tools as a guide, kind of help you or kind of show you the way, but you still have to think about it and put the work in to understand it so you can do it yourself. All right? And then seek help, right? If all those other things don't work and you're still sitting there and you still don't know how to do the homework problems, seek help, right? And I'll do another video in a little bit where I talk about ways that you can seek help and places you can go to get help with math, right? So this is the one, we're done here with the ones all about doing your homework. The next video that I do in this series is going to be all about studying for math quizzes and math tests, right? So make sure you check that one out and get some tips on how to study for a math class.